everybody. Today is Friday. It's September 4th already, 2020, and right now it's 2:16 p.m. As most of you know, I've been in YouTube prison, so that's why you haven't seen me around. I was lucky enough to get invited to get on Charlie Ward's show, so that kind of gave me a little bit of exposure there. I really miss you guys. This has become such a part of my life that it's very difficult when you get stifled from doing what you need to do, and it just upsets me, but too bad. We move forward, right? So that's what I'm doing, and in the meantime, I'm working on my own webpage since I already paid for everything. All the monies that come my way from my own, to help me with my own channel, goes somehow into making either the communications better, and that's my next purchase is a decent microphone. But I have, had to add some extra storage space, and I've had to put another, just all the upgrades that I have to do to maintain this site. And I also now am going to have a website that I have to pay, or you have to keep up monthly maintenance on all that. So all that's in the charges that you have to maintain your channel. But that's what I have to do in order to get some freedom away from YouTube, because they're banning me from saying everything that needs to be said, and it's the truth, and I must be saying something that they don't like, because that's what they're doing to me. And so I do whatever I can to work around that, and with the Lord's help, that's how it happens. But I'd like to read this to you, okay? It's from September 4th. It's called Drop Those Burdens. Our God is our supply. Look to me for all. Rely on me for all. Drop those burdens, and then, singing and free, you can go on your way rejoicing. Encumbered with them, and you'll fall. Drop them at my feet, knowing surely that I will lift them and deal with each one as is truly best. And He sure will. You have to just say, Lord, the burden's too heavy and I cannot do it. I'm so sorry, but can you please, if I put it right here by your feet, Lord, can you please attend to that? And then you just go on your merry way and you forget about it. Just forget about it. And then God takes care of it in His own time, okay? So that's why you're not supposed to worry. So in the meantime, I've been doing a lot of researching. I've got some new information coming out that is going to boggle the mind. And, I thought, well, since I'm here in YouTube prison, I might as well do a little jingle, right? When you're dealt lemons, you make lemonade. I hear the Trump train coming, it's coming round the bend, and you ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Now I'm stuck in YouTube prison, no live shows, no videos. You can only comment for a week or so. When I get out of prison, there'll be a jamboree. All love and light shall follow those who accompany me. Stuck in YouTube prison, I'll be researching for you. When I get out of prison, sharing light for you. Well, I just kind of threw that one out there. Whether it makes sense or not, too bad, right? The idea is just it's funny, and it's release on all the ugliness that's going on around us, and especially all the attacks that are coming my way. But like I said, just let it roll off, and just you deal with it in another way, and you're always happy and you're always loving, and God finds a way, doesn't He? Yeah. Okay, I love you. Good morning, friends. It's Angel Wallace here. It's 8:01 a.m. on Wednesday, September the 9th, 2020. And during this beautiful morning, it went from like 100 degrees down to like 60s. And I hear Colorado got some snow, and which doesn't surprise me. But, it's just like I just don't want to be jolted into winter. I'd like to just kind of ease into it like we normally do. So I hope your weather is going well, and please say some prayers for those people who are going through all the devastation that's going around the world. You've got the fires going on. You've got these hurricanes and all this other stuff going. And so we got to remember our fellow human being, and they're out there struggling, and it's pretty sad. So let's lend our prayers and see if we can just, elevate them into better conditions. Okay, so today I want to talk about child sex trafficking. I just want you to know that I now have my website of my own. I waited for Carlos, who is from South America, Colombia, and he offered to provide me with a web page for free. And he called me just yesterday and told me that he was sorry, but he hasn't gotten around to it because he has other clientele. So I told him, no problem. I says, since you've been away, I says, I just decided to do my thing, and since I was in prison, I might as well, since I was, let me rephrase that. Since I was being detained from uploading any of my videos, which, by the way, I've got 3 already dynamite videos. Okay, so too bad. So YouTube doesn't want me to share those, so I'm going to put those in my web page. And getting back to the web pages, I've now worked on that during the time that I had, and I managed to put all of my videos, over 135 videos on there, and I've got the 3 brand new ones I'm going to be putting up. And my webpage isn't completely done, but most of you are just going to be there anyway to look for all those videos that I can't show on directly from YouTube. So we're just about there. Today's a good day for me because now I can upgrade. I have to upgrade in all my my platforms so that they can provide me with more storage space for all my videos. So that's how it works. They give you so many slots, and then after you fulfill those slots, then you have to buy into upgrading so that you can get more room, which is fine. That's fine, and I was just waiting for today to get that done. So I'm hoping that I can do a premiere of my own video, personal web page, and I'd like to share that with all of you, so then you have an alternative place to go to. And those times when I know that I'm going to get dinged on YouTube for something, I'll just provide you with a link in a probably in a post with the little description. And then that link will guide you to my webpage, and then that way you can just view it from there and not have to worry. But I'm just I'm doing everything I can and fighting tooth and nail. They were denied me. I had submitted an appeal on the Comfort and Hope and movie or video, and they wrote back to me and said, well, we still believe that it goes against our policies, blah, 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 blah. So, you can't win for losing, and they're not going to give you a fair shake anyway. So I expected that, but too bad. I'm going to submit all my appeals every time because I'm tired of being stifled, and I'm not going to put up with it. I'll find any means, whatever I have to do to get the word out. Okay, so let's get started before I get all edda. Okay, today it says, and this is from the townhall.com. President Trump is fighting hard against sex trafficking and the mainstream media hates it. And it's written by Lanka Deaton. It was posted on August 18th of 2020. And it says the opinions expressed by columnists are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of Town Hall. President Trump recently announced $35 million in new Justice Department grants to organizations that provide safe housing for victims of sex trafficking. And the mainstream media hates it. Anyone with an ounce of compassion for their fellow human beings should be able to see that fighting a heinous crime that affects tens of thousands of victims in the United States every year, and that's over half of whom are minors, is exactly the sort of thing that federal law enforcement should be doing. But to mainstream media, reporters such as the New York Times, Kevin Roose, taking a stand against human trafficking and pedophilia is apparently a bat signal to conspiracy theorists. Anyone with an ounce of compassion, I already read that. It saddens me to see members of the media defend pedophiles and sex traffickers just to take a jab at the president. Having experienced unspeakable acts of sexual violence myself for years, starting just before my 13th birthday, is deeply personal to me. And it took me 4 years of trauma therapy as an adult victim to be able to vocalize that I'm a trafficking victim, yet children are expected to be able to identify and vocalize whether they're a trafficking victim in order for police to get involved. And the most difficult factor in prosecuting traffickers is that the children are often unable to openly identify and reject trafficking when it is their entire life. But it's also a problem that adults are failing to report it as well. And there's an unspoken and sometimes spoken vow of silence between those involved. Now, people have known about Jeffrey Epstein for years. His vile trafficking island wasn't something that happened overnight, and too many politicians and media elites ignored the gruesome reality of human trafficking and will even go as far as to mock and ridicule those who speak openly about it, such as President Trump and his supporters, like myself and all of you who support me. And perhaps some do it because of the need for popularity, success, or stature. Now, some might even have been a victim of it themselves. And President Trump is one of the few people empowered to stand up and acknowledge the problem. And as a survivor, I appreciate him for it. For puts a bullseye on his back by taking a firm stand against human trafficking because of the many elites that are involved in the practice themselves. Estimates suggest that about 50,000 people are trafficked into the United States each year, mostly from Mexico and the Philippines, and over half of them are minors. In 2008, 51.6% of the human trafficking cases active in the United States were sex trafficking cases that only involved children, according to the 2018 Federal Human Traffic Report. The overall number of prosecutions in these instances has historically been discouragingly low, a fact that has undoubtedly contributed to the belief that sex trafficking is much more rare than it really is. Unfortunately, however, we have a man in the Oval Office who understands the gravity of the situation and is determined to do something about it. President Trump has achieved a number of underreported accomplishments on this front over the past 3.5 years. And during his first month in the office alone, the law enforcement officers arrested more than 1,500 suspected pedophiles compared to just 400 arrests during all of 2014, according to the FBI crime stats. The following year, more than 2,300 suspected online traffickers were arrested during the Operation Broken Heart. And in that single operation, 383 children who suffered recent, ongoing, or historical sexual abuse were rescued. Their stories are horrific, yet they are actually the lucky ones, because many other victims are never found and never reunited with their families. The rescue of hundreds of exploited children should have been the front page news all over the country, which would have contributed to public awareness of this issue and offered a measure of hope to the families of other victims who have yet to be saved. Most mainstream media outlets, however, have been oddly silent on President Trump's efforts to combat sexual exploitation and trafficking of children, with a stunning lack of major coverage on this issue. Sex trafficking destroys tens of thousands of American lives every year, and turning it into a political issue is not only callous and insensitive, but downright immoral. And regardless of one's political beliefs, there's absolutely no excuse for undermining efforts to save children's lives. Now, unfortunately, there's more treatment for survivors available now. Than when I first started my therapy, but it is only because the president has been constantly bringing light to the issue. He gives courage to anti-trafficking organizations in the United States to step up and do their jobs fearlessly, knowing their president had their backs. And if I ever get to meet President Trump, I'd shake his hand and say thank you. It's impossible to fully describe just how much his openness on this issue means to survivors. Lanka Deaton was held in a sexual slavery bondage in South Africa for 5 years. She is now rescued, redeemed, and set free, and is a healthy, full of life, complete woman in Jesus Christ. Lanka has authored 2 books, Keeping Secrets, an autobiography of her story, and Secret Freedom, a guided help book for anyone who wants to share their own story. That's sad, but it's the honest truth that's coming from a person who actually has gone through that. The U.S. Marshals rescued nearly 40 children in Georgia as part of a 2-week operation. It was dubbed Operation Not Forgotten. The United States Marshals Service announced Thursday many of these children were at risk for child sex trafficking, abuse, and exploitation, the law enforcement agency said. 26 children were rescued and 13 others were safely located in the mission, which also involved the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's known as the NCMEC. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the Office of the Georgia Attorney General, and other state and local agencies. The children ranged in age from 3 to 17. And the operation also led to the arrest of 9 people for alleged charges of sex trafficking, parental kidnapping, registered sex offender violations, or other related crimes. Isn't that totally disgusting? When we track down fugitives, it's a good feeling to know that we're putting that bad guy behind bars. But that sense of accomplishment is nothing compared to finding a missing child. Darby Kirby, chief of the U.S. Marshal Service Missing Child Unit, said in a statement, "It's hard to put into words what we feel when we rescue a missing child. But I can tell you that this operation has impacted every single one of us out here. We are working to protect them and get them the help they need." Children were found in 20 counties around Metro Atlanta area. ABC affiliate WSB reported, including Gwinnett, Fulton, Clayton, and Forsyth counties. In a press conference Thursday, Donald Washington, director of the United States Marshal Service, said a similar operation in Cleveland has recovered 15 children so far and led to the arrest of 2 people. Another operation to finding missing children, called Operation Summer Rescue, just began in New Orleans. And this is more meaningful work than law enforcement does in rescuing children. Washington said Thursday, "Our children are not for sale, and they are not ever forgotten." More than 421,000 missing child reports were sent to the FBI in 2019, according to the NCMEC. Washington said 91% of those are considered endangered runaways, of which 1 in 6, or about 60,000, are likely to become a victim of sex trafficking. Now, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp applauded the operation in a tweet Thursday, saying that the state will continue to work around the clock to bring an end to human trafficking and ensure the perpetrators of this evil industry know that they have no place in our state. Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr said his office has helped place these victims in rehabilitation centers. Sex trafficking can be in many ways a hidden crime, one that lives in the shadows, he said, Thursday's press conference. "I always go back to the fact that if you can save one child from a life of abuse or sex trafficking, then we've done our job. And this operation did that for many, many children." Well, I take my hat off to them because, I've been wondering for years, where in the hell are our men? Where are the husbands? Where are the dads? Why aren't they speaking out? Why aren't they angry? I've wondered that since the friggin' 80s. If I could see it, how come men couldn't see it? That was a big thing with me for a long, long time. I've gotten over that, but that was one of my key things, is my key questions of where are the men? Where's the fathers? Where's their anger? This is from the Heart Intelligence, iHeartIntelligence.com. It says, we're going to be talking about Tim Ballard. And for those of you who do not know of him, he is a gentleman that served in the United States military. And now that he's back on native land, native soil, he's gone back out with a bunch of men, and they've come together to go and rescue children. He is a hero in his own right, and I'd like to introduce you to him. And here he is standing here with these children. It says, "The man who rescued more than 1,600 children from sex trafficking. This is a true story of real-life superhero Tim Ballard." Now, most people have a hard time thinking about child trafficking, and hence it is a topic rarely discussed, and comforting child traffickers is something most of us would not be able to handle. Someone with the guts to go undercover, get in deep into their operations, and ultimately present a case for them to be put behind bars. These children need heroes more than anything else. And in this case, that is Tim Ballard. He's a devoted husband, father of 9, and an ex-agent for the Department of Homeland Security who has made it his life's mission to save children from sex slavery. Tim is the head of Operation Underground Railroad, a nonprofit organization whose goal is to destroy the tentacles of child sex traffickers and release children from their clutches. As a highly trained counterterrorism and weapons expert, Tim wandered into the world of trafficking when he was offered to help fight child crime in the mid-2000s by the Department of Homeland Security. There, he learned to infiltrate the ring as a sex tourist and earn the trust of sex traffickers. And as a dad with 6 children at that time, he found this was a traumatic experience for him, but it was also a necessary one. "I learned how to basically be just horrible things," Tim says. "I learned how to act like a pedophile or talk like a trafficker or a purveyor of child sex tourism. Whatever I needed to do. Then I started to infiltrate different organizations in horrible places in Mexico and Colombia. As he says, seeing this world from the inside was not the only thing that traumatized him. It was the sheer size of the industry that shocked him the most. The U.S. government didn't realize what it was doing to me. He said they were basically destroying my soul, not only because I was being exposed to things, and we have regular checkups with mental health professionals, but the part that was the worst for me was I would go down and find the kids, and I couldn't believe how vast it was. I couldn't believe how big it was. It was at this time we started getting the numbers, and it was well in the millions of children. Tim says that with time he started to cope with the situation, and he eventually stopped seeing the faces of his own children and those he was saving from the horror. But he still hasn't found a way of the darkness of his mind. And he worked as an anti-trafficker for the U.S. government until he started realizing that he could help more children by working on his own in his position at the Department of Homeland Security. He had limited authority, but if he started his own operation, he would be able to do so much more. But the water in the kettle boiled over when Tim wanted to save the son of a Haitian pastor, a little 3-year-old boy named Gardy, who had been abducted by a church worker and sold to traffickers. Tim did everything he could to help him, including bringing his father to the United States, but he was not given permission to make it a case the United States would pick up. So Tim promised to find Gardy as part of the U.S. government. He did not have permission to act. And Tim started suffering mentally because he could not keep the promises he made to the families of the missing children. And then the day came when his wife, Catherine, successfully convinced him to start his own operation. "My wife is my hero," he said. "Catherine said, you made a promise, and they were good promises. These are real kids. We're just going to trust in God. We're just going to quit." Even though the family was potentially putting their children in danger, Tim says he and his wife felt assured that they were doing the right thing. So back in 2013, Operation Underground Railroad Hour was launched, and Tim brought together a group of people from the DHS, CIA, and state and local enforcement. And some of them gave up their job and pension security just to take part of this operation. So at the moment, Hour has around 25 fully dedicated members working around the globe, and give or take 100 contractors, experts from their jump team that is responsible for taking action anywhere they are. And the first mission they took on in Cartagena, Colombia, was a major success, which saved dozens of kids and caught a group of sex traffickers that included an ex-popular Colombian beauty queen. Now, Tim was previously said that while most traffickers are men, there are also some women who normally do work as groomers for the kids. Operation number 2 took place in Haiti at a fake orphanage where clues from Gardy's abduction had led the team. They managed to save the kids there, who were left without food but were not yet sold. However, Gardy was nowhere to be found. And Tim had to tell the child's father that he was not able to save his son. Both men cried together, and then Gardy's father said something that Tim would never forget. "If my son hadn't been kidnapped, none of these kids would be out. Nothing would have happened if I had to give up my son so that these kids could be rescued. If I have to give up something, give up my son so that these..." Let me reread that. "If I have to give up my son so that these kids could be rescued, that's a burden I'm willing to bear." But that wasn't the end of it. Then he does the most amazing thing, Tim said. He goes to the police the next day and he tells them that he will bring home any of the kids that they can't find parents for and parent them. And he brings home 8 of those kids, and he and his wife are now raising them. Deeply touched by all this, Tim and Catherine decided to also adopt 2 of the children, a brother and sister, whose parents could not be located. And after a 4-year-old wait, they were able to come home in their new family in 2020. The search for Gardy is still ongoing. and many times Tim had thought of quitting due to the crushing effect of the work on his mental health. But his faith and his wife have kept fighting on. And here's Tim. He's sitting with President Trump, and he's declaring what he's doing. And my hat's off to him. I mean, he's a warrior. He's a true patriot. He's got a heart of gold. He's got compassion that a lot of people don't have, you know. That's what it takes. You got to have that compassion for these poor kids. Our kids are not for sale. Seeing the light in his eyes of children slowly returning after all they've gone through keeps him going. However, there are many more children in need of rescue, and the situation needs to be tackled from every angle possible. And without a strong market, sex trafficking would not exist. And Tim says the United States is the biggest client because they tend to have cash, so traffickers can ask for higher prices. An underage sex slave usually brings in 3 to 4 times more than what an adult would bring in. But who are these 6 individuals exactly? I've asked myself this question for a little over a decade, Tim says. Why do you want this? Because people think pornography is 16 and 17-year-olds, and technically it would be. But I've never met a law enforcement agency who has time to even worry about that. As horrible as that is, and we wish we could, we're talking about prepubescent children. That some people can't wrap their head around. I can't wrap my head around it. I cannot. It's the opposite of what most people think of as sexy. It's so grotesque, and yet so many people want it. So today, Tim and Catherine are parents to 9 children, and he has moved away from doing field work in order to be able to focus on expanding the mission of his organization. A movie that called Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel as Tim and Mira Sorvino as Catherine, is currently in its final stages of production, and Tim has also written a book called Slave Stealers, which features stories of slavery from the pre-Civil War era and now. It says, The Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel and Mira Sorvino. I am blown away by the support for children today. It will be remembered forever. This doesn't end here. The work keeps going. Thank you and thank you.
I don't think I can do this job, Tim. As soon as I lay down, all I see are those kids' faces. How long you been doing this? 12 years. How do you do it?
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade.
So that is just a sample of the movie and the characters that play him and his wife. Our has helped catch more than 848 traffickers and saved more than 1,682 children from slavery. And if you wish to become part of their mission, you can visit ourrescue.org and familiarize yourself with everything they do to help children in need. And should you want to contribute financially, you can visit their donation page by clicking there. So if you want to go to this, I will give you the link so that you can go in, and if you'd like to go and help or just read about it, you can. We wish these heroes the best of luck in their future missions, and they're the kind of heroes the world needs right now, and we need a lot more of them.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Perry. Dozens of children were saved from slavery when agents rushed in to break up a sex trafficking ring. Last weekend, police broke up a major sex trafficking ring in Colombia, which has become a destination for tourists looking for sex with boys and girls. The police had help from an American who went undercover to rescue the children, and Elaine Quijano met him.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers. 4 months ago, Colombian authorities asked him to investigate a tip that children were being sold there as sex slaves.
Within a half hour, this individual walks up to me, starts asking me what I'm here for, what I want, and within minutes, he says, well, I've got kids as young as 11 years old.
Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent, now heads up Operation Underground Railroad, a nonprofit group that rescues trafficked kids. After that first meeting, the Colombians asked him to put together a sting.
No men will be in here, only women.
Operation Underground Railroad spent months planning, renting this house, rigging it with hidden cameras to document the crime, coordinating with Colombian authorities, and negotiating with the traffickers.
How they find these kids is they lure them in by pretending to have a modeling agency. They target them at 9 or 10 years old. And they were telling us that about by 11, they're ready for sex. They're ready to be sold.
What is it like looking into that kind of person's eyes?
It's horrifying, and this is why. Because I've got a smile in the face of evil. This is the table where we're going to do the negotiation.
Less than 24 hours after the operatives landed, the suspected traffickers arrived on the island, and the final deal with the undercover team began. 54 boys and girls aged 11 to 18 were ushered in for what had been billed as a sex party. They were given candy and drinks and told to wait in this small room.
This little 11-year-old boy, I remember, he asked one of my operatives if they could give him some cocaine or something. He said, they usually give me something because I'm really scared.
By the time the deal was done, the alleged traffickers were set to make $25,000. That transaction was never completed. 25 Colombian special operatives stormed the party, arresting 5 suspects, 4 men and 1 former beauty queen, all charged with child trafficking. The victims, 29 of whom are under 18, were evacuated, given medical exams, and placed in a rehabilitation center where specialists are working to undo the damage.
Right before I got on the boat, we had to walk by this room where the kids were, and they put their hand up, and I touched their hand and see that there's liberation now.
Liberating one child at a time. Elaine Quijano, CBS News, New York.
And we'll be right back.
I didn't have a clue about this.
Yeah.
What is sex trafficking in terms of the U.S.? Is it actually happening? And what is it in terms of international? What is the problem at hand right now?
Yeah, so this is not a peripheral issue. Most people want to believe it is. This is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world.
Really?
It's
more than drugs, more than...
It's the fastest growing, really. It's rivaling drugs right now. Because you can sell...
That's the fastest growing, gotcha.
Fastest growing. But in terms of numbers, it's actually getting up to drug trafficking. And the reason is you can sell a bag of cocaine one time. But you can sell a child,
oh my gosh,
10, 20 times in a 24-hour period. So